So before we get started, I just wanted to say something quickly to, because I'm going to put this up on YouTube, and I just wanted to say to, I know my viewers, to anyone who is impacted by the snow, especially those of you in like Texas, my heart goes out to you guys. I hope you guys are staying warm and safe, and I'm sure you feel the same,
Yeah, of course.
because I know that that's impacting a lot of people pretty badly. Um,
Yeah.
Also, make sure to like and subscribe to this video, and follow on Twitter and Instagram at Kevin Savage NYC. And I'm sure Gabe, you could, if you want to maybe give out what sort of social media handles, in case anyone wants to follow you, whatnot.
Yeah, sure. At Legion Gabe on Instagram. It's probably a good place to start.
Cool. So I really appreciate you sitting down to have this interview. I know that I haven't necessarily been the most kind, at least in my video. And so I'm hoping to have a conversation just to kind of hear your thoughts and address a couple of just different points and stuff like that, kind of where my concerns are. And I definitely want to hear your side as well. So
yeah, no, appreciate it. And I guess I'll kind of mirror that back a little bit as far as like, yeah, not great to be whatever, to get that type of criticism, obviously. But
yeah,
I will say that even just the fact that honestly you're willing to do this video, because you probably know you're not the first person to criticize me, and usually that's the open invitation is, all right, well, let's talk it out, and usually I don't want to. And I think I appreciate that you're willing to do that. And also,
sure.
like, I know we're going to get into a lot of the specifics of the video, and there's a lot that I disagree with and I think you got wrong.
Sure.
But I will
Yeah.
say that I think again, maybe comparing to some other criticism, that you seem like you're open-minded. You're okay with like, here's what I think I see. Let's find out if there's something different. And sometimes people are so entrenched in their opinion that they are their
Yeah.
opinion. And like, to me, that's just even just philosophically, like, don't be your opinion. Your opinion, it should be like clothes, right? It's like, if it's working for you, cool, keep that on, right? But if there's holes in it, if it's not good, then okay, now it's time to
Sure.
get some new clothes. Like, don't be attached to those opinions. So anyways, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that having conversations and I definitely, if I see something, I'm gonna make a comment. I'm gonna be critical, and but I'm always willing to hear, the other side of the story as well. Do you want to just go ahead? I'm sure people who are watching this know a bit about you, but if you want to go ahead and maybe give just a brief background of like on your side. I know that you've done a million of these interviews, because I the other day sat through and watched probably like the entire day's worth of interviews. So
My
I know
apologies.
that those exist out there, but if you want to just for the sake of this video, if you want to give a little background.
Yeah, I'll try to make it the fast version.
Sure.
So yeah, for me, been a music producer and engineer for a little over 20 years now. And started out kind of more on, I guess you could say, the industry side of things, the kind of, I guess, traditional route, which especially at that time felt like it was the only route. And so, more or less trying to chase placements, having a recording studio here in the Bay Area where I'm at. And that was my main focus, was doing sessions, engineering, trying to get placements. And I did okay, definitely worked my way up the local scene here as far as working with a lot of the biggest artists in the Bay, the E40s and the Too Shorts, the Mr. Fabs, Messi
Right.
Mark, Keek the Sneak, all these guys that I grew up listening to, that I know if you're in the Bay, you definitely know. And I think you said you have some background, so maybe you've heard of those guys. And if
I
you're
think
not,
I'm also similar to your age, so I'm familiar with some of those names.
yeah, for sure. And then also, yeah, you're right. Actually, that's location and of a certain era too.
Yeah.
And so, so I had some cool highlights, got some songs on regular rotation on the radio out here, and even got to produce and engineer for a couple artists outside the Bay, some big names and stuff like that. But, I was doing that for 10 plus years and kind of started to look around and realize, like, damn, like, the money's super inconsistent. I'm about to be 30 years old. I'm in a place, I'm not feeling very good about myself. And like, basically was ready to give up on the dream of music as my primary job, primary source. I'm always going to make music for fun, but all right, it's time to kind of shift that focus. And then basically, as almost like a last resort, I thought, okay, let me try selling beats online. And it's funny now, because at the time I had a little bit of this perception of like, oh, well, like there's like the industry producer versus the internet producer or whatever. And like, I'm like in the cool camp, and it's so funny because I'm like, I feel like I'm almost the spokesperson now for the other side of that. But anyways, at that time, that was, I'd avoided it up till then, but I was like, all right, let me give this a shot, because maybe I can maybe I can make $1,000 a month and then I can cover my rent and, you know, keep holding on to this for a little while. And I started doing that. I caught like the very tail end of SoundClick, but also, you know, BeatStars was coming up and all that kind of stuff. And basically did the same thing that you see all the other producers doing, with, you know, try to get some attention on social media, usually YouTube, link to your beat store. And that's the whole business model.
Yep.
And I did that and did okay. Got, you know, $20 here, $50 here, whatever. Nothing crazy, but enough that it kind of sparked my interest. And it also like, it was cool because I was starting to make a little bit of money, not much, but it felt different. Instead of me chasing after placements, instead of me, you know, sending emails to A&Rs and trying to get in the room with artists and always feeling like I'm chasing, it was like, oh, actually, it's almost like people are coming to me. I can kind of build this thing, and then they come to me. And really, up until that time, I'd had zero interest in marketing, in business, in entrepreneurship, nothing. Like I just wanted to be in the studio, just make beats and engineer, and that's it. But so I started selling beats online, started kind of doing what everybody else was doing, and then started to research like, okay, well, maybe I can get a couple more sales. Maybe I don't know, let me see what these other producers are doing. Let me see what maybe even other marketers are doing, and start to learn a little bit. And then set me down a path that like literally changed my life, because I started learning about direct response marketing and organic and paid traffic and, you know, all this stuff, you know, entrepreneurship, business, all the stuff that my perception before that was, I hate this stuff. It's boring. I just want to keep getting so good at my craft of making music that I'm going to get saved by a manager, by a label, by a pub deal, by something, right? I just need to work on my craft to then realizing like, wait a second, no, like this whole marketing, you know, business, entrepreneurship, all that stuff. I had it wrong. Like, not only is it something I could be good at, which I did not think I would be, but also it's something that's really fun and something where you can put your creativity into it. Just like I was putting my creativity, my passion, my excitement, my energy, all that stuff only into music. I started putting that into the marketing side. And I know like it sounds weird to people who haven't gotten into it yet, but it like really is fun. You know, it's crafting this whole process. And then because I was having fun doing it and getting good at it then, and still doing my music, then that kind of combination, things really took off from there, and was able to, you know, climb to close to the top of that industry, of that niche of selling beats online. And, you know, now we've got a team of full-time people, like 10 people. I'm in this studio here where, you know, I've got my office upstairs, and we got 2 studios downstairs, and I'm, you know, I don't want to get deep into all this stuff, but I have a certain level of financial independence, and my mindset compared to where I was when I was ready to quit and not feeling good about myself is very different now, where certainly I still deal with, you know, anxiety and depression, some of the stuff that I, you know, that's a whole other discussion.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Okay,
I'm right there with you. Yeah. So
we can get into that because I think a lot of creatives, you know, do deal with that. And it's anyways, but overall, you know, so grateful for where I'm at. And then basically more recently getting into teaching other producers and really creatives and entrepreneurs in general about this stuff, and teaching the little tactics, like, hey, here's the stuff that works for me. But also, like, more importantly to me is, well, 2 things: the strategies, the principles behind why those things work. Because if you get too caught up on a specific tactic, like, oh, I post beats on YouTube and go to my beat store, then when that stops working, you don't know what to do next. But if you understand why that used to work, maybe, and why it doesn't work now as the market evolves, as the marketplace evolves, as the audience evolves, as everything, technology, if you understand the principles, the strategy, the psychology behind that, now you can apply that and continue to be successful. And the second thing is, really more importantly, is having fun doing it and being like, oh, okay. Because like, you're never going to get great at something you hate doing. At least it's going to really be rough, right? So to me, you're not going to get good. Like, being an entrepreneur is hard. Building a business from scratch is really, really hard. Now try doing it in music. It's like doing it with one hand tied behind your back, right? So the only way you're going to be successful is if you figure out how to actually enjoy doing it. Otherwise, you're going to give up way before you even give yourself a chance to be successful. So that's kind of the, I said short version. Maybe that was the medium version.
That's that. Yeah. I mean, listen, I know you've done longer versions, but that
I sat through 10 of them.
I've sat through a number of them. And I want to say that I think, and I know that I Instagrammed this out, that I'm not opposed to like funnels. I know this is something that may have come across in my video. I think that they're useful tools, and I know that you've done really well. And watching your content, you definitely have a lot of really good gems on like how to utilize funnels. So I definitely have my funnels. To me, I see them as useful. I see some like gray area kind of Mike Lindell, my pillow guy. But like there's tactics that happen with them that sometimes make me concerned. But overall, I know that you're a big proponent of funnels, which is how you do like all of your marketing stuff. And I actually found a couple of YouTube videos where someone's gone through and really like broken down. So I got a chance to see kind of the Phoenix funnel that you had at one point in time. And so I broke down. So it was very fascinating as I stepped outside of just my, like after making the video and then researching for this interview, looking at kind of the stuff that you've done. And you definitely are very smart about those things. And I want to give you kudos for those.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I just want to say one quick thing about funnels, since you know, that's a term that you brought up, and some people have heard that term and some people haven't. And I think sometimes they might, you know, everybody has maybe their own definition or what they think that is. And so just to, so I can give you my definition, what I think is the definition is really all a funnel is what is your process? What does the customer journey look like? Right. So if you're a producer and you sell beats online, and the way that a potential artist comes across you is by searching for YouTube keywords, and then hopefully your video pops up, and then they click a link in the description of your video to go over to your beat store. That is your funnel. So we all have funnels. Whether your funnel is somebody walks down the street and they see a sign, they come into your store, like that is literally your funnel.
That's fair.
So a funnel is. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So a funnel is just what is that process, right? And really, now there are specific things that go into that. Where if you say, "Hey, I'm interested in funnels," then there are certain principles and strategies and things that it means. Essentially, to me, what it means is you're doing that on purpose. So instead of having a stupid funnel, you have a smart one on purpose. So so I just wanted to define the parameters, and then now we can get into.
I think that's a good point. Because I guess maybe I often make funnels synonymous with direct marketing tactics, and I think those are actually the things that go into that, which we'll get into in a bit. But those maybe are my sticking points a little bit more so than just funnels themselves. Because I see what you're saying. You know, anytime someone you have a pop-up that happens on your website and they sign up with their email address, that's essentially a funnel, funneling them into your email list. So I'll clarify by saying I think I mean direct marketing tactics and certain copy tactics. I think those are
sort of the specifics within that framework. You know, just like a lot of people equate a funnel with ClickFunnels, and now ClickFunnels is a software, you know, sort of, it's the category king, we call it, right? So it's like Kleenex is a name brand, but they're not the only people who make tissues, right? Maybe they're your favorite tissues, maybe they're not. But ClickFunnels is literally, it's a page builder, and I'm, you know, I use them, I like them, whatever. But also just want to clarify that it's not software. A funnel is not software. A funnel is not a page. A funnel, like literally, it's just that process. And then within that, I think the conversation we can have is, well, now what are you doing in that funnel? And do you like that? Do you not like that? You know.
Sure. So I want to give you a chance to kind of talk about the video that I made. You know, just if you have, you know, any sort of comments about that. I don't know if like how much of it you watched or anything like that, but you know, I want to give you the chance to address anything that I made in that video before moving on to, I guess, some of my major concerns or the concerns that I have.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I watched the whole thing. Cool. And so I think one of the big things to me is this sort of general attitude of sort of cynicism, skepticism, I would say at its extreme, conspiracy theory kind of mindset. And I'm going to talk in a little more generality. So it's not necessarily saying that, you know, there's a spectrum, right? And maybe you're somewhere in the middle here on the spectrum, but I do think that there's a lot of this sort of mindset, right? Which is essentially anything that is perceived to be marketing, to be, you know, to be perceived to be sales, perceived to be, you know, in that world, using psychology in any kind of way to get a result. There's some people who immediately say this is a scam, this is evil. And what's interesting is I used to be like that. Like before I got into this stuff, to me, I thought I was so smart, right? I was like, oh, oh, I see this person is marketing to me. They're using psychology. So I'm going to show them and definitely not buy that thing. And anybody who does is stupider than me, right? Which is actually stupid because that maybe that person actually has some real value to give, right? And also now it's completely different because now that I embrace this art form of marketing and entrepreneurship, like I like to see that. It's like, oh, cool. What did they do? How did they go from step 1 to step 2, and what is that customer journey? And and by the way, a very big important part of that customer journey is fulfilling on the product and having a great product. Like that kind of goes, I shouldn't say goes without saying, but isn't a very important part of this whole thing. And so I think that a lot of people sell themselves short, and I think it's probably everywhere. I think maybe there's a little bit more of it for people who are creative, maybe just because it's the world that I'm in. I feel like there's a lot of it for sure in the producer community. That's just what my experience is. And there's a incredible community of people who are embracing entrepreneurship and loving it and have that attitude towards it as well. But I do worry that that can really backfire for a lot of people. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. I get that. And I've definitely seen various kind of I've seen people who are very cynical, and then I've seen people who are mildly cynical. I like to be kind of in the middle. I know I've personally been like duped by some of the people who are out there selling stuff in using stuff like ClickFunnels and stuff like that and direct marketing tactics. But I've also purchased, I'm a big fan of Cymatics. I know that you've done an interview with Steven Cymatics, and they use those all the time. And I've had good experiences with them. So I definitely look at them and say, okay, I know that they're doing very similar marketing tactics, but I like their product and I'm more than happy to go follow them with that. And then I'm on the flip side, I've also purchased products where I've gotten it. I've been like, this is absolute trash, but that can happen with anything you ultimately buy. So
yeah,
I definitely could see.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, so if I could, another addressing your video, well, a couple things. So continue with kind of that sort of mentality, maybe of there's a spectrum of like, I love marketing, I love entrepreneurship. And maybe like the one extreme version is if I know my product can help somebody, then I'll do literally anything to get them to buy, right? That's like, let's say that's one end of the spectrum, right?
Sure.
Like I'll lie to you to get you to buy if or I guess one end of the spectrum might be I'm an evil, horrible person. That's actually the end of the spectrum, right? I'm an evil, hard to say that. Evil, horrible person. My intent is to scam people out of money, and that's what I'm doing, right? And maybe the other end of the spectrum is like anybody who's selling to me is well, maybe that's their perception, is that person. And I hate anything related to marketing, to entrepreneurship. Now, the ironic thing is every time I've seen somebody who has that perspective, and I've talked to people who are pretty far on this end of the spectrum, they almost always preface it with, well, I don't hate marketing. I just hate every single thing that you specifically are doing, right? Which ironically are the same things they're trying to do in their own businesses, right? Like you're trying to grow your business. If you're a producer, you're probably trying to grow your career as a music producer. And then there's this weird disconnect where you're like, well, it's evil and horrible to do certain things like, for example, you'll see maybe some videos or some people say like, okay, so there's these scam artists out there, right? They're called gurus, and they're anybody who's going to tell you how to get a result. And now check it out. Like, here's how like first thing they're going to do is they're going to tell you their story, but get this, they're going to tell you that they used to be struggling and it was like really hard for them, right? Watch, they're going to do that first. And that's how they're going to emotionally get you invested in them and care about you. And they're going to relate. And then all that's a trick, because then they're going to tell you they found a solution, something that actually got results for them. And then it started getting results for other people. But get this, what's coming after that is they're going to sell you something, right? And so when you sort of say it in that way, now it's like, yeah, no shit. Like this is like, that's how you connect with humans, is you tell your story, and that's how you show the value of a product, right? But now when you've got that conspiracy mindset, you see a video of somebody telling their story and you're like, I know what's going on here. He's manipulating me. I know what the next step is. And it's like, well, no, you're selling yourself short. Like, yeah, of course, you know what's going on. This is the world we live in, is you connect with people by telling story. The way that you sell things is by showing the value in it, like all these things, right? Does that, am I making sense there?
No, you definitely make sense. And I know that there are and I think what becomes the biggest challenge, and I see this, I see this quite frequently, is that it's like trying to separate the people who do have good intentions to present you a quality product and those who aren't, and those, or a product that maybe they're exaggerating its value. And that I know that CopyZilla, you might have heard that name before, is a big is someone who's big in kind of the space that I kind of dabbled in, with like addressing the drip plugin or your course and stuff like that. He's huge in that space because he's constantly looking at gurus and interviewing them, and he'll have both conversations, but he's mostly in like the personal coach space. So he's looking at like some of the mindset coaches and the sales, high ticket seller kind of stuff. And so you'll see folks who are kind of definitely people who are selling positive products. I see someone like Cybatics who does a similar funnel. Totally, for the most part, everything they've produced has had some sort of value. But then on the flip side, you have people who are doing that. And I think the challenging part is, I think skepticism on some level is a little bit important in the kind of current day we live in, because if you believe everything, like, you will get scammed.
Sure.
But you don't want to go so far that, everything, you're a hammer and everything's a nail. So I think that's kind of the the tricky space. And I know that, and we'll get into this a little bit more down the road, but when it comes to like marketing specifically, I know, for example, the American Marketing Association has kind of a code of conduct. Now, granted, no one has to be part of them, but I think that they lay out some good norms and values as a marketer, what is ethical. And I think that's kind of my sticking point when it comes to some marketing tactics out there, is, are they kind of flirting the line with kind of ethical marketing? And so I know I didn't directly address that in my video, which I think if I were to redo the video, I would probably kind of go through that conversation and try to compare things in that way and say, hey, these are maybe my points of concern when it comes to like ethical marketing, and like these are the things that I think you do well, and kind of lay it out that way rather than kind of going in all like gusto.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So
and then just a couple more things on the video, and then I know you have some more specific stuff to go over, but we're really related to that. So I'd never heard of you sent me some links to that organization. But the little bit that I read seemed like more or less common sense. But it's also, again, it's all just where do you kind of draw your arbitrary line, right? I mean, just literally looking at your video, looking at the title of the video. First off, it's
a little clickbaity.
A little clickbaity. It's a little clickbaity, right? Extremely clickbaity, right? Yeah. But my guess is you felt like there's value here. And so it's okay to, let's say, manipulate people to click on this, right? And so you're going to do it in all caps. You write, is Midi Money a scam, right? And what you're doing there is you're playing off of the psychology of people want to hear about a scam, something scandalous. And in the video, you literally say, I don't think it's a scam. Here's some of the problems I have with the words on the order form page, right? But, and then it says, producer secrets, beat selling course reviewed. Now, you don't review the course. In fact, that's like, I think the first words out of your mouth. What you review is one order form page, right? But if your video was, no caps, here's my opinion on an order form of Midi Money, it's not going to get a lot of clicks, right? But to you justified, hey, I feel like I have some value to give here. I'm going to manipulate, and you could say lie, but but at the same time, there's a certain standard on YouTube that it's to me, it's not out of line for a YouTube title. There's an understanding of what, that's how you speak. So I do find it interesting. And I think a lot of people struggle with this, where they're the people who hate this stuff, and they're trying to do it. And the other thing too, I'll say about that too, is like, and I know we're going to get into some of my actual results and all that stuff, is like, it's way more convenient and way easier to believe that I'm lying and that I'm a scam artist and that I didn't make a bunch of money selling beats, because it's so much easier for somebody to justify why they haven't been successful and why they don't have to put in the work to do that, because it's so much, you can go on with your day. Anybody who's making that much money either lied or cheated or just didn't do it at all. Cool. Now I can go on with my day. But it's way less convenient if you're like, oh, wow, he actually did that. That's actually possible in the industry, in the niche that I'm in. I guess I need to put in, if I wanted, the excuse, for me now is, I guess I need to actually learn this stuff and put in the work. And so I think that is part of the appeal that some people have of saying, well, this is all fake, this is all a scam, when it's like, I get it's less convenient that maybe it's not a scam, but it's important to be open to that possibility.
No, absolutely. And I think that that's something I know that I'm pretty sure I addressed, which was kind of this, and I know that I've I think I've said this before, which is that, there's definitely kind of the line that sometimes happens where you won't be able to sell something if you don't on some level do some level of exaggeration, or some sort of, you can't, if you what is the term, if you say, if you give equal weight to some saying, you'll be successful with, not everyone is successful with this, like it's going to put a seed of doubt into someone's mind. So I could see why people choose to keep that as like small font at the bottom of their landing page, or choose to kind of hide that sort of information, or kind of skirt it away, or word it in a way that's not going to immediately kind of flag. So I recognize that that's something that tends to happen, similarly to putting a clickbaity title.
Right, and all these things.
Yeah.
Right, because if we were gonna, like, basically just making your point for you too, like if the the, again, one end of the spectrum would be, okay, if you're, let's just say you're selling beats, well, the argument might be, well, the only ethical way to sell beats is if all the beats in the world go into some database and they're all written, they're all just numbered, and then somehow people need to go through all those beats and pick out a beat, and that's the only way, right? As soon as you add a logo, now you're tricking people, because you're putting these colors in it, you're creating some kind of emotional response with that, right? And now you're changing the perceived value of that beat, right? That's just one of 1,000 things that everybody does, right? But again, that's just the world. That's how the world works. It's not a bad thing. If you take it to its extreme, to where you're lying, and especially if you're selling a bad product, then that's where it's bad. And I guess that's the gray space in between. It's like, where do you want to play in between? But I'm glad that we agree that is at least the world we live in, because not everybody even concedes that.
Sure. And I mean, I guess that's where it becomes a really challenging thing of kind of how do you go about being ethical in your marketing? I believe transparency is probably the best way, which of course, has its own challenges, and kind of figuring out how to be transparent but be alluring, and stuff like that. But it is tough kind of in the current space where, I got a Discord message from someone saying, if you go to this website and you enter in this code, we'll give you a half a Bitcoin. And then you do some searching and you're like, I don't think that's real, because now they're asking me to send them $1,000 to become a user. And then, and so we live in a day and age where it's tough, and so it's it's tough. And, and that's why I wanted to make the video and kind of, and whatnot. So.
Yeah. And I should say too, like, I got to meet you somewhere too, is like, yeah, don't believe everybody, of course, so you also, you have to do your due diligence and do your best to be like, well, does this seem legit? Like, is this too good to be true? Let me actually look at, this person's track record. Let me look at, have they gotten results for other people? Let me, make sure that you do some research, of course, because hopefully the message that I'm putting out is not like, buy everything from every ad you see. Like, hopefully, yeah, that's clear too. So
yeah,
I get that.
Did you have any other points in the video that you wanted to address?
Let me see. I had a couple notes here. I think I got to most of the stuff. I'm guessing we're gonna get to some of these. There were some of the specific criticism. I guess I'll say one more thing generally, and I think then I'll let you kind of get to the specifics. Is that your criticism is literally of an order form, right? And it's and the opt-in page, right? Squeeze page, order form, right?
I didn't have $500 to buy your course. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And well, also, by the way, like the even in that sales process, there's about a 2-hour video that actually addresses
Sure.
most of the concerns you have, which is what I think we'll get to in a minute here. So
Yeah.
you skipped the whole part, right? So like just for anybody, so like an order form in this context is not a sales page. Like what you might think of a sales page is like, here's what this product includes. Here's all the context. Here's why it's great. No, this is literally an order form where it's essentially you've already watched this 2-hour video. You've gotten all this training. You've learned, this whole process. Now I've told you about, all the things that are included, why it's valued at this, all this, I know we're going to get to all those specifics. Now when you go to this page, you already know all that information. You're ready to invest if you're there, right? And there's a couple little reminders of bullet points, and that's what you reviewed, right? There's like tiny little screenshot of like this huge big picture. And I will say that it was eye-opening because there are some people who are literally going to opt in and then they're going to click over to the order form and that's their whole perception, right? And so I have already made some changes. In fact, I posted a video recently on my YouTube that's like, I think it's over a half hour of just a pretty in-depth walkthrough of like, when you buy, check it out, here's all the stuff. Even though in that other 2-hour training, we do a decent job. I really wanted to show, here's like literally, let me log into the members area. Let me show you the group. Let me show you what's included in this training, in this course. And, so it helped open my eyes to that. And then some of the specifics, I think I'll let you kind of lead as far as the things that you had issues with. And then we can get into, if I agree, because there's some I agreed on and the ones that I don't.
I will have to say that I should have watched the whole video. Before I made the video, I did not watch your entire training. So looking back at it, when I did prior to this interview, I actually did sit down and watch the entire video. And so it did talk in more depth about what you were selling. I'm not gonna lie, 2 hours is just a long time. And there wasn't any like other things I could find online that would kind of go into more depth about kind of the course and kind of how long is this master course? How many hours? I mean, even if I remember right, the 2-hour video doesn't really go into, it talks about the bullet points, but it doesn't really, like I've bought master classes where they'll talk about the list and it'll be this long list, but then I get it and it's only like an hour long, but it's because everything's like a 2-minute bullet on each topic. So I have kind of a cynicism of some of that stuff. So when I hear about it, I want to know, is $500, worth it, based off of the amount of content that I'm being provided. And listen, that might be a point that we go back and forth on you. We either agree to disagree, or maybe I'll agree with you that, hey, this is actually worth $500. But I think if I would have redone my video again, I would have sat through and watched the entire video because it would have given me some new things to think about as I like address the course. So I did actually watch it. And yes, you did go through and go over all of those different things that you were selling. So that is something that I will admit was my bad. I should have actually watched that video.
Well, no, I appreciate that. And one of the frustrating things is I would say the vast majority, I don't want to say 100% because there's exceptions to every rule, but the vast majority of negative criticism I've gotten are from people who have not taken the course, have never talked to anybody who's in the program. Literally, a lot of them literally just saw an ad, and then a few of them maybe clicked over and saw the order form. So it's like, so that's a little frustrating, but it's also good for me to know, like, I don't know, I got to figure out how to do a better job maybe of in those tiny 5 seconds that most people are going to give. If some people's perception is this, I need to figure out how to do a better job in just those couple sentences of communicating the value of all that stuff. So I'm open to that as well.
What's funny is I actually did get hit up by someone who's taken your course, left a comment, immediately jumped over to Instagram, started messaging me. And what's sad about it all was that we were talking because he was like giving me like voice messages and he does, I think, Bop Mop.
Okay. I know that
he's that guy. Yeah. But he was like, hey, Gabe's a chill dude, like this is, this course has actually helped me and yada, yada, yada. And then the video came down. And so immediately I felt justified in the criticism because I got copyright strike and the video came down, which totally became this kind of like, well, if you are taking down my video, then you must have something to hide. Now you cleared the water on the side of saying that it wasn't you personally who took it down. it did say it was by Legion Beats. So, and I know you're the CEO of Legion Beats. So, and I know this was a point that I put up on kind of the list of stuff I want to talk about. I know I put it towards the end, but I think it's a good point just to address that before we dive in a little bit deeper. What happened? Was that just kind of a goof or?
Yeah. So, so basically, it was not me.
Sure.
In fact, it was somebody that I know. It was somebody that
Sure.
I told about it. And to be honest, how it said Legion Beats on there, that was surprising to me. I don't really know how that works, because the person who did that doesn't actually have access to like my Legion Beats YouTube or anything. So, anyways, that's a side note. Somebody who's well-intentioned trying to help me. As soon as it came down, I was like, oh, this is just stupid. Let's say I'm an evil, horrible scam artist.
Yeah.
This is just going to perpetuate this whole conspiracy theory, and I've got something to hide. And I was like, man, like so it wouldn't even be smart if I'm a horrible person to do that, right? This is the internet. You're going to post on social media.
It's the worst thing.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing you could do.
It's not how the world works. Like, so yeah, hopefully that clarifies at least that why would I do that? I was like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is going to be way more trouble than it would have been. So
that's fair.
That's what I'll say about that. And
cool.
And by the way, like I said, there's been other criticisms that are people that are like so set in their viewpoint, and it feels very personal. And to me, I didn't get that vibe from you. And so anyway.
And I think we came across maybe the same Reddit conversation that's now been archived, but it was very long, kind of, these are all the points they critiqued. And then I know that I think you hopped on there, or maybe it was Anno Domini and Wishmaster hopped in there to give their rebuttals. And I know that you created 2 videos kind of breaking down, like, this is how I made this is the money I've made, and yada, yada, yada. And addressing the conspiracies that you feel about, what these people feel. So, that definitely exists out there, and was interesting to look at, kind of because I saw that before, because I saw your ad and I was like, oh, this is actually really interesting. But then I saw the ClickFunnels, and they all have the same look on some level, and I got weird vibes. So I started doing some research, and that pulled up some stuff. And then I was kind of looking at kind of what your thing was. And then I got the phone call from you when I put my phone. I was expecting like a text message, but it was either from you or it felt like a robocall. I don't know if it was an actual robocall. And I was like, whoa, this is weird.
Yeah, I can address that one too. So that's interesting. So that's so it's something called a voicemail drop. And it's kind of this cool thing that in theory, what it's supposed to do is automatically leave a voicemail. And so it's a great, so just like, so you have, I checked out your stuff. You have a text messaging list, right?
Yeah.
You
Community.
You have it set up with Community. So I have a text message list as well. And the software I use also has this cool thing where you can, essentially leave a voicemail. 2 things about it. One is it doesn't always work, and then it rings and then it picks up, and then it's really weird. So I took it down because it's strange, because the way I recorded it was like I'm leaving a message, just like when you send text out, it's like you're sending a text, right? But if you pick it up, then it's weird because I'm just talking. So if I bring it back, I'm going to have to address that. I'll have to say like, hey, here's a recording, I don't know, or maybe I just won't do it. But anyways.
Because I always expect like politicians and stuff like that to like leave robocalls essentially. And so when I got
robocall is when you cold call somebody to try to do, you literally entered your phone number the day before, and then I followed up with text and this other thing. So it's like you use SMS, right? So I used SMS and I used this slightly different variation of that same function. I don't think I just didn't execute well. It just didn't work. It was just bad. And the sort of script itself, and when I listened back to it, it was a little cringy. I was like, man, if I do this again, I'm first of all, I need to address in case people pick up. And second of all, I need to, just the way I was talking sounded weird to me. So I appreciate the criticism. And also it's like, yeah, I'm just trying to do what you're doing with the text message list. It's just another thing,
That's fair. So I guess then what we can get into, and I 2 different ways that we could go about doing this, which is one of them we could discuss kind of the American Marketing Association, just kind of talk about those kind of the concepts they have, as well as some of those which I think would touch in on kind of the kind of the price points and stuff like that, or we can get into kind of just talking about like ads, because I know that one thing that I think can sometimes, I know that you did address this inside your video where you say I put $1 in, for every dollar I put in, I get about $1.75 back when it comes to ads. And so I guess one of the questions that I have, which I think is part of my skepticism, but is something that maybe you can address, which is when you look at a number like 1.5 million or 1.2 million, when you provide that information to people, are you saying that that is once you've taken out stuff like ads and stuff, ad spend and stuff like that, or is that including that number?
Yeah. So
like, is it your gross?
No. So whenever I talk about it, I say revenue, right? And so,
okay.
So revenue means sales. Here's the money that came in. So that's what I'm talking about there.
Okay. So that number is after you've subtracted out what you've spent on ads.
No. I'm sorry. So revenue meaning all the sales, all the money that came in. We're not talking about all the number of costs that are involved, whether if it's ads or anything else.
Okay.
I mean, there's other places where I've addressed that stuff also, where I'll say, hey, here's my ad spend, here's whatever. But generally, if I'm saying, hey, we did $1.5 million in revenue, what that means is
your gross sales.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Sorry, I might have actually answered that wrong before, but yes, it's gross sales.
Okay, cool. So, and I don't really have a lot to dive into that. It's just like, I think a good clarifying point to just when thinking about that, because when you hear that number, I think sometimes it's like when I went over all of the different kind of the pictures that people posted that you use as like testimonials. And as someone who would potentially buy a course like yours or something like that, because I even said like, hey, if this was cheaper, like I would totally buy it, because I see that the information you're providing definitely has value. I was just kind of like this price point, just, I don't know if it can be something that's justified. And I'm sure you feel different, but that's fine. But it was, when I see the testimonials, it makes me wonder, like, how much are these people actually spending on ad sales? I know that you have the kind of the cold email hack, which I think is a unique technique, especially for people who can't maybe afford ad spend. But I would see some of these testimonials, and let me know if I cut out at all, because I think one of my AirPods just dropped a little bit.
I see.
Okay, so you're in one ear. Anyway, I see these numbers and I'm thinking, well, they might have made $1,000, but how much did they also spend in ad sales, essentially? And so does that actually end up making it worth it?
Yeah. So yes. Okay. So there's a lot of, can you still hear me, by the way? I actually just switched something to on my.
Yeah, I could still hear you. I just lost one AirPod. So we're rolling with one ear.
Yeah. You know, what's weird is I think I just did too. Okay. So yeah, addressing like, ad spend. Okay. So, revenue, profit, all these things, there's like a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of complexity. So, and I'm happy to get, relatively deep into it. We're already kind of deep into this video, but, one thing is, revenue is different than profit, right? And so as far as ad spend, for one thing, when you join our course, our community, you get a whole program. It's called Beat Traffic Hacks. It's its own course that's about driving traffic. And there's a ton of ways to do that organically, meaning that's free traffic, whether if that's, whatever, I won't go all the way into it. But or also talking about paid traffic also. So there's a ton of different ways to drive traffic. And then there's different expenses that are involved, right? Depending on how you're doing it. If you have at this point I have a big team, and so that's an expense, right? And software, and whatever, if you have a physical location, but right, we could go on and on as far as what your expenses might be. One thing I'll mention is, like, if you think about a business, there's essentially different phases that your customer goes, right? That customer journey that we talked about, right? There's like awareness, there's lead generation, which is now we're, turning that traffic we're borrowing to traffic we're owning by getting them on our email or SMS list. Then there's lead nurture, which is where we're, telling our story, we're showing the value we can give. We're telling them about our offers. Then there's conversion. We actually make a sale. There's delivery, right? And then there's retention, upsell, ascension. There's all these different pieces. And if you look at most businesses, they're spending a lot of money to acquire a customer. And so what that means is let's say if you talk about their total advertising costs and other things, ultimately every time somebody makes that first purchase, let's say it costs them $100, right? And they might be spending $100 to get somebody to sign up for a free trial for some software, right? And that's how most businesses operate, is you lose money on that upfront, but now you're growing your list, you're acquiring your customers. And now as they continue and you send them up and retain them and resell them and all that good stuff, that's when you sort of make your profit. And that's so fair. Part of what's cool about the whole funnel concept is you can sometimes break even, on that very first front end funnel and actually acquire customers and leads for free, which is amazing because then it's, essentially all profit after that. And sometimes you could actually make a profit on the front end, which is like not really something that's existed in business for the most part. So that's really cool. All that being said, a lot of times that first funnel, if you are break even, that's great. And that's that very first funnel, right? And then from there, it's like, okay, now you could think of it either as a bigger funnel or sort of the next funnel is like, okay, now here's this next step, right? And this is what we're selling next. And then a lot of times that's where most of the profitability comes is step 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's something to understand too, is like
with the upsells, right? You're saying when you say step 2, 3, 4, 5, these are like kind of the upsells, or
it could be upsell, and we could get into what you think upsell means, but I'm talking about you initially acquire that customer, meaning they made a first purchase, right? And then subsequent purchases are the next steps in this case. And so that's usually where the profit is going to come from. And so, if you think the very first funnel you build, you're going to, make a ton of money. Usually that's not the case. It's like, okay, now you're acquiring this database of customers, of leads. And now the very next thing, this is where kind of that, most of that profit comes from. So I don't know. That's just another little lesson to get into. There's so many angles.
No, and I get that. And I think that's where, again, you hit kind of this challenging piece of marketing ethics meets, especially with regard to kind of like, and that's what the AMA kind of discusses inside their thing, which is, I know that, and I think you would agree that there's a lot of producers out there. There's some who are incredibly successful. There's some who are making like nothing, right? Like they're trying, but they're making nothing. And so you do have kind of this segment of kind of impoverished or kind of vulnerable community of folks who are, they're trying to get that. And I think, and listen, I'm not going to fault you for having kind of the because even if you were to subtract how much you made on your after the ads, it's still a respectable number. But I think that sometimes those numbers can seem like the whole picture isn't painted, right? It's people, they might see that, and especially some of them may not also have the education that like myself I have, or you have, or other folks who might come across the ads would have, or come across a funnel or something like that would have, but they may be under a false impression that. And I know that you put a little thing in the beginning of your landing page that says like not every one is going to experience the same number. This or not. You have kind of a disclaimer at the bottom, which is for liability purposes. But I think sometimes it can give people a false sense of hope that number is what they're going to get when they see that they're not hearing kind of, well, but I'm also going to have to put in, this ads. But I mean, you're saying also that, hey, you don't necessarily have to put in, ad spend. And of course, like you were saying, sometimes you may put in the ad spend and make the money right back. So, if you can set it up properly, it may not actually, you might have a little bit of upfront cost. But I think that's kind of, sometimes that sort of copy language can be misleading to folks who maybe aren't actually looking it through with a relatively skeptical lens, or kind of, something to that extent.
Yeah, no, I've got a few thoughts on that.
Sure.
Yeah, let me start by, conceding something there, which is, in building this, the course part, the course, the training, all the stuff that's included, which, again, if you get a chance, watch that. It's like a half-hour video where I show you. It's like, I think it's the newest video as of this moment on my YouTube.
I'll check it out after this interview.
I'll send you the link.
Cool.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So I wholeheartedly believe that if you want to learn how to, as a music producer, how to build your business online, whether that's selling beats or, packs, kits, VSTs,
Yep.
anything like that. I really do believe that this is literally the best program and community and coaching in the world. Like I feel very confident about that. Like most of the people who are the best of that in the world are in our community. They're literally there. So it's pretty much, I feel confident saying that. And so to a certain extent, I can say, well, if I know that this is literally the thing that might make the difference between somebody ultimately giving up on their dream, like I was about to, or the best chance they have, not saying it's easy, but if you don't do this, it's going to be even harder, then
Sure.
I can kind of justify, almost anything. Right.
Right.
And that's where we get into trouble, right? Where it's like, well, I can't justify anything, right? I can't put a gun to somebody's head and be like, you need to buy this, right?
Yeah.
And I think that part of that, especially when we kind of were in the earlier days of marketing, this was like, okay, well, let me almost take that approach of like, yeah, let me essentially, even though I never say you're going to make $1 million, I always in the trainings make it very clear this takes a lot of time and energy and effort. Yep. And, but with all that, again, it's not so much about me, it's about your perception. So if your perception is that I'm saying you're going to make $1 million, then I have to look at that and say like, yeah, I need to change the messaging a little bit because you're probably not. Like, you're probably not going to make $1 million. Like if you're not, at a certain, there's a lot of things that need to line up to make $1 million. Right. And by the way, I've recently been changing more and more of that. In fact, if you see a recent ad that we're starting to run now, it's literally the first thing I say. It's like kind of making fun of myself. I say like, something like, hey, I made $1 million and you are almost definitely not going to, but we have this community and blah, blah, blah. Right. So I think that I can do a better job, even though again, I can justify it and say, hey, I really do talk about it. If you watch the training, I make it very clear, but I can make it clear that, hey, this takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time and energy and effort. And if you're not willing to put in the work, do not buy this, which again is actually word for word in the training. But
yes, you have it on the first page. You have it on the first the picture that I took a screenshot of. You have that thing down there, which I appreciate. I think I even said like, this is important. I think this is good.
Yeah. And I say that even like literally during my sales pitch when I'm trying to sell the thing, I say that. So, and I think I could do a better job, because I think that if you're saying that that's the message, and I've heard that in other places that it's making it seem like, oh, basically you sign up here, you're going to start making $1 million the next day, then I need to look at that and say like, how can I change this a little bit more to be very clear that that is not what I'm saying? To me, like when I first started sharing revenue numbers, it was weird. Like I felt really weird about it. Now I've done it enough that it's kind of like, I don't think about it, but the purpose is, to me, it's to show what's possible. Like for me, one of my mentors and now business partners is Anno Domini, right? And I remember, a few years ago when I was first starting to do this stuff, he mentioned like he had a 6-figure month, right? And I remember when I first heard that, it literally changed my belief of what was possible. Cause that was when I was first starting to kind of like obsess about the stuff and learn about selling beats. And like, I never even thought it was possible to make $100,000 in 1 month. Like that didn't even seem real. But then when I saw that he had done it, it changed the ceiling of what I thought was possible. And that mindset was part of what allowed me to then go on and do some of the cool stuff I've been doing. So that's part of why I share those numbers. It's not to say you're definitely going to make $1 million too, but hopefully it's to help normalize that, to be like, okay, like whatever I thought was possible, it's actually a lot higher. And now with that mindset, let me take these tactics and strategies and principles and let me apply them, knowing that it's actually possible that I can get farther than maybe I would have thought otherwise.
And you have the Midi Money Awards, which I came across the website for, which kind of shows these are the different successes, which I don't know how old it is, but I know that like you and Anno Domini are still the only folks who are at the top who've made the $1 million. But of course, the course is only 2 years old. So, it takes time and stuff like that. And maybe down the road, you'll have some folks who do fall into that point with you.
Yeah. And by the way, we have people who have made 6 figures and 5 figures and, so you're right. We have not created a millionaire yet. 100% true. But we've helped people make literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. Pretty good.
A small number, but at least from what I saw on the website. But that's
how about this?
People.
We've helped more people make hundreds of thousands of dollars selling beats than I would say anybody ever in history. I think that's like I don't know, maybe I should back that off a little bit, but it's probably true.
At least,
So
yeah, who
anyways,
has a course on selling beats. Yes, that would be probably an accurate statement.
that helped get the result for other people.
Right. So, and that was actually an interesting thing to actually stumble across when I was doing my research, that Midi Money Awards, because it kind of laid an interesting perspective. Like, there are actual people who are making 100,000. I think it's like, at least on that website right now, you've got 2 people. And then for like the 10,000 range or the 10,000 plus range, you've got like more people. It's like 6 people, I think, or something like that. And then you got
Definitely more than,
is it
maybe
more
it
than
needs to be
6?
updated, but yeah, it's definitely more than 6. I know that
Okay.
for sure.
And
We
then
just sent out a lot of very
I saw
expensive,
those.
really cool
I saw
looking
those
awards, and
plaques.
we sent out a lot more than 6, and that was for the $10,000
Okay.
award.
Gotcha. I don't remember. It was a couple of days ago when I looked at it, but I remember it was an interesting kind of layout. I didn't know how old it was, but it's an interesting layout of kind of, these are the successes that people are having with it. And I think that was kind of cool to see, because I think that spoke more to kind of just kind of the overall kind of how people are doing with it than like testimonials. Because testimonials, listen, I'm a cynic when it comes to testimonials. Part of my background was, critical writing and reasoning. So I've done and I enjoy kind of like debunking stuff and stuff like that. So a big thing is like, there's an encouragement, I think, to kind of take with a grain of salt testimonials just in general. So that's probably why when I saw that, I was like, like these testimonials, these are probably real people, but like, how, I don't know. But seeing the Midi Money Awards kind of webpage was a good way of kind of showing, hey, this is kind of where everything's at. And then of course I wasn't sure how old the thing was, but that was kind of interesting to see kind of where people were at with it.
Yeah, and it's something just like, saying, hey, me and Anno Domini, we made $1 million, like that might be exciting for a little while, but then it gets old, right? But when we show, like, check it out, like this other person who just bought the course just like you, like they just did a launch and they made $10,000 in a week. This guy, has hit the $100,000 mark. Right now it becomes like, for one thing, that person gets celebrated. And by the way, we have awards and we celebrate each other for getting your first lead, for getting your first sale, for getting $100, right? Because it's a lot of work. And so that's part of what you get in that community is seeing, like, okay, like if you do this whole process and then you tell your friend, hey, I got my first lead, I collected 1 email, they'll be like, wow, that's great. But I know what that means. People in my community is like, okay, you had to build the pages, you had to come up with an offer, you had to tell your story, you had to write the email things, you had to get all this stuff ready to then drive some traffic to get one person. Like, bro, congratulations, that is awesome. Like, celebrate that win. Cool. Now let's continue down the path and keep going. So I think that those kinds of awards are things that are important for that to celebrate, and then also to see other people in the community can see that other people are doing it. It shows what's possible and helps, inspire that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and I know that when I was doing my research, I came across another guy who did a YouTube video where he took the course, and he's like, it wasn't for me. So I asked for my money back, and you gave it back to him based off of what he said in the video. So that definitely, I think that was a good thing to see, because it was like, okay, there's someone who's done it. They might not have had an experience that they necessarily envisioned out of it, but they, these people are just taking their money and running, right? Like, they're actually like, you know what, you didn't like the course, fine, here's your money back. So I think that definitely, I think that's why when I gave my breakdown of it, it wasn't like a stay away video. It was based off what I'm seeing, stay away. It was you know what, I would do this. I don't know if it's for me right now, but I would potentially do it, but just couldn't justify the price point at that time. And so that's why I did the video the way that I did it. So that was, I don't know if you saw that video of the video that I'm referencing, maybe.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess what we can get into, I know that we have like a half an hour left or so, as long as my other AirPod or your other AirPod doesn't die out.
Yeah.
But if you want to get into, did you get a chance to look over the American Marketing Association or any of the ECFR stuff that I sent you?
So I saw what you sent. I at least tried to click over and, at least skimmed through a little bit. So I'm not going to say I read through every single
That's fair.
article you linked to, but I think I more or less got the gist of it.
So I think so to anyone who's watching this, the American Marketing Association, it's just a society of marketers who they have a code of conduct. Their idea is that, and they have a code of conduct, and they kind of break it down where they talk about norms and values. And essentially their idea is, hey, as marketers, we play a major role in kind of this, the fabric of kind of this commerce society. And so we want to make sure that we're being, ethical in kind of the way that we write and kind of do our marketing and whatnot. And so they break it down. I'll share links in this video when I upload this, so that way people can kind of look into it, so they get an idea of kind of what this is. It's something that actually my partner shared with me because she's in school for business and marketing. I had never heard of this until she shared it with me. But they have these norms, which are do no harm, foster trust in marketing system, and embrace ethical values. And I think what's more interesting, those are interesting in themselves, is they have 6 values: honesty, responsibility, fairness, respect, transparency, and citizenship. And I think they do a really good job of kind of breaking that down. And I think that there's definitely stuff that you guys definitely do, which I think the refunding, for example, if someone is unhappy with the product, is part of what they talk about in there. And, clearly you guys do it, which is great. And I think when I looked at that, I was like, it was kind of there was some things that I'm like, I was just kind of on the fence with, is this, does this exist here with the course? And it wasn't like no, this is like a violation of their ethics kind of a thing. It was more kind of like and I think one of them was maybe, let me see if I can find one of the points that I
and by the way, while you look that up, I realized we went over advertising expenses, and I kind of talked in generalities, but let me give a couple specifics, just so I don't want people to, I don't know. I want people, let's open it up a little bit. So I did actually check this because I saw your list and I wanted to, before we hopped on, to, check a couple things. So the last 2 beat packs, the last 2 funnels that we launched for Legion, and actually Legion and Odami, we did basically this one with Snoop, the Snoop contest that's still going. That's actually ending next week. So I've got like a ton of work to do around, we're gonna do a whole nother launch around that. And sure. It's fun, man. It's overwhelming, but there's like, I love that whole thing of like, okay, we're going to have the contest go to here and we're going to figure it. Anyways, my point is, so I've got that one and then another beat pack that we launched, basically since November, also both in the last few months. The revenue so far on the Snoop contest one is just over 6 figures, about 107,000 last time I checked. And by the way, that's leading into next week, which, if all goes right, should ultimately be a lot more than that. But the ad spend on that so far, when I checked, was $31,657. Just to give some specifics. The other one was called the Icons pack, which is another beat pack basically, that we launched sort of around Black Friday. And that one, the revenue was $228,892. Ad spend $44,735. So
that's like,
just the
last,
last
2.5 times the amount that you spent. So
yeah, I think on that one, maybe even more. Yeah.
I'm bad with math.
Yeah, but good. Those are what we would consider a good, a good return on ad spend. So just to give some specifics, and also results not typical. You're not going to do that on your first funnel. Like, trust, like, again, if you break even on the first funnel, that's great because you're acquiring customers and leads for free. This is not my first funnel. But I did want to give some specifics on our last 2, just so you know.
And it's not just funnels. It's how you create the ads and who you target and retarget and yada, yada, yada. And that stuff I've done that stuff, and there's a whole rabbit hole there, but it's exciting stuff. It's just a whole rabbit hole. I think one sticking point that I had, which I'm looking over the list right now. So I know people do this a lot. But the idea of kind of like an evergreen limited time offer that's not limited. And I think that's something that I know a lot of people do. So I'm not just bringing it to your attention. And I had some people who reached out to me when I released a video where they're like, yo, this course has been up for, for a couple of years and it's still saying $500 for a limited time. It's kind of the fake scarcity essentially, because then when it's a limited time, if it's not an actual limited time, then it assumes that price because that's the actual value of the course, because it's not actually discounted. It's that is the price because it never existed at $1,000 or what other price point is also listed. And so that would be kind of in that space of kind of honesty. And that would be something that I would say, I don't know how you do it. I don't know what a better ethical way of kind of being alluring and getting people to kind of pull out their credit card would be. So I understand why people do that. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, this isn't a limited time because I could go to your website right now and buy the course for that price, just like I looked at it, a couple of months back. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So let's get into this because I think this is maybe going to be more fun because we're gonna be closer on this one. I think.
Sure.
Because this to me now we are getting into a little more gray area of like, yeah, I don't know where do you kind of draw that line. So first off, that's not the let me give more context.
Sure.
So we used to only do those trainings or webinars. We used to only do those live for a long time. We launched in the summer of 2019 is when we launched Midi Money in the first place. And basically all the way from then till when was it? God, I don't know, like mid 2020, basically about a year. We only did those trainings live.
Okay.
There was no, you only saw it live. What we would do was when you sign up, when you attend this live event on Thursday, we usually do them on Thursdays, excuse me, then essentially we'd give you a deadline and say, you're here live with us. So if you buy before Sunday, it's going to be $500, $497. After that, it's going to be $997. And because of the technology we use that tracks IP address and email and cookies and all this good stuff, that was real. If you showed up live, that was your deadline. If you attended that event. Now you could attend another event and then you get to do it again.
Right.
Well, actually the way the tracking works, they'd probably be redirected. And then, if they hit us up, we'd probably still give them the other price, so there was, so again, there's a little more nuance there where it is real. Like it is real. And some people did buy it $997. It's not like it never was available. If they came back, if they came back after that time period, it came back after Sunday, again, because we're tracking cookies, IP address, all this stuff, they would be redirected to a page where it's $997. And some people bought it $997, a very small percentage compared to who bought it for $497, but some people did. And that was their deadline. Now, do you want to, we weren't saying, hey, this is your deadline. And guess what? If you come to the next live training, you'll get another deadline. We didn't say that. Right.
Sure.
So that's the gray area. Like, I don't know. I'm okay to debate that one. Like, I don't know.
I'm mostly just posing these points because it is a hard question because, on some level you might actually want to give. And that was kind of my impression when I looked at kind of your website and my multiple times of going to the website and stuff like that. It was always the same price, despite it saying or be there this impression of like a limited time or, today you'll get this, that sort of sales tactic. And so that's kind of why I wanted to kind of bring that to your attention.
Yeah. And so the way that we've been doing it more recently has not been doing those live, as you see, you opt into that page and there's that video. We've never, by the way, again, this is just where you draw the line. To me, it's just always corny if you pretend it's live and it's not. I feel like people can tell anyways. Like, I don't know, if I'm being 100% honest, if I could get away with it, I probably would, because doing it live is just exhausting. But anyways, we've never faked it, right? So more recently, anytime in the last several months, if you go to the recorded version.
Right.
And in that version, there is no, in the actually, okay, so there's again a little more nuance and stuff, but basically in the emails on the order form page, there's nowhere that explicitly says this is gonna be $997 after that. What it does say is there's certain bonuses you get in this limited time period, and those bonuses go away, right? And then again, using the we use software called Deadline Funnel, and it tracks IP address
Okay.
and cookies and blah, blah, blah. So if you do come back after that time, you're going to come to a different order form that's not going to list those bonuses. In fact, I bet if you go back to that page right now, the order form, you might notice there's less stuff on that page. It's the same price.
The only thing that I saw less, which I thought you guys just got rid of it because I was like, this is weird, was the getting ClickFunnels for the 2 weeks free, when I was like, and I think I made this point, which actually I think that someone else said, the guy who reached out to me made a comment about it, but was ClickFunnels is free for 2 weeks, even if you were to go to ClickFunnels web. So I didn't see that as an actual bonus, because I was like, this is a weird bonus to add in, considering ClickFunnels is free, like for 2 weeks. To say this is like a bonus you'll get with it, that was kind of one of those, I guess that would go back into like the honesty side of things with that kind of that list of like, which I think you guys got rid of it, or I don't know if you guys did or not, but
yeah. So, okay. So now separate thing. So I think now maybe we're more clear on as far as the price increase and stuff. We don't do that anymore. Maybe if we start doing them live again, maybe we would, maybe we wouldn't, probably not. Actually, I did a live one last week, 2 weeks ago. And in that one, we didn't do the price increase. We just did the bonuses. We said, hey, if you buy, we did it on Thursday. We said, if you buy it before Sunday, you get these specific bonuses. So that's probably what we'll stick to. Now the ClickFunnels thing, when I saw that on your video, I cringed. I was like, why is that on there? Like, yeah, I agree. I mean, there is some nuance and there's a backstory to it. And there's just like a quick, we used to do 6 weeks free, and we actually literally paid for that first month. Part of that, by the way, is if you're an affiliate, you get a percentage. So we're essentially giving our affiliate percentage back to them to help them pay for their first actual month of ClickFunnels. So that was kind of the thing. Turns out that violates ClickFunnels terms of service. You can't do that. And
gotcha.
so that was really why we stopped doing that. And for a while we kept it on there in that price stack, because in the context, I guess that's how we justified it. Was like, well, I guess it was 6 weeks. Now it's 2 weeks. I guess let's just leave it on there. I made a point for sure of, for the last many months of doing them live, of saying like, hey, you could go to ClickFunnels right now. It's free. The video that right now is the pre-recorded one was recorded like a long time ago. So I'm not sure.
I felt that. I felt that because I think there was some pieces in there that I was like, these things kind of like the ClickFunnels thing, for example, you mentioned in the video, but it's not on the website kind of a thing. But I get it. Listen, I make videos, so I understand to make these videos, especially one where you don't really edit it. You just talk the whole way. Is you lose your, like I'm losing my voice, like you lose your voice, or you get exhausted, or they're exhausted. You got a lot to cover, and I get it.
But yeah, so I'm due to update that video, because I'm guessing I probably do say it in the video. But as soon as I saw your video, I was like, oh my God, we have to take that off the order form. So that is off the order form. It doesn't say 2 weeks of ClickFunnels free. Like, yeah, I don't like that. So I agree with you on that one.
Cool. Yeah, I think what ultimately what ultimately happened was there was this perfect storm of these things that happened mixed in with kind of these little sticking points that ultimately kind of spurred me to decide to make the video. And that, I get it. I just uploaded a video where 2 of my slides don't have a slide there, but Premiere Pro exported it and didn't grab one of my images. So I had to re-up. I get it. Like, these things, mistakes get made on the way. We're all human. So like, I'm not going to hold that against you. And I, again, appreciate this conversation to kind of talk these things through.
And that was a change that I made directly. I saw your video, and so I appreciate that, because you're right.
Awesome.
We agree.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm looking through kind of the other notes that I have here, and I think you've addressed a lot of the stuff. For anyone who's just curious, some of the mentions like the ECFR, which is the Electronic Code of Federal Regulations. If anyone, I'll share some of these links in here too. And I think you made a good point of addressing these things. And this is something that maybe you can make a comment on. They have certain regulations where they talk about a price point, like what we talked about earlier, which was something becomes the value of something when the majority of the time it exists as a certain price point, right? Which I think you do a good job mentioning that, hey, listen, we've sold this course at other price points. So I think that that's fair, that based off of what you're describing here on the back end, that we don't see when we when we just are a random person going on like through the funnel process and stuff like that. That's good to know as kind of like a, hey, you're not actually always selling it for the 497. Some people do buy it at the other point, but there's the other point, which I think this is a hard one to address, because I think you're kind of the only people who are doing this sort of course. So to truly try to weigh comparisons probably would be very, very challenging. But I just, there is a point, and I know you addressed the kind of the price of your course of justifying, hey, this is why I'm selling it for $500 or $497. But they have a thing, Title 16 in the ECFR, which deals with commercial practices. They have a guides, what they call guides against deceptive pricing. And they talk about, I think the one that's important that I was looking at was retail price comparisons and comparable value comparisons. Now, this kind of gets in the weeds, so we might lose a few people here. But they talk about the idea of like bargain advertising and the way that they lay it out, which maybe it doesn't apply to you guys. Because again, like I said, there isn't really like anyone else who's selling a course, so it's hard to make a comparison. Basically what they say is, if you put something at a particular price, it's only discounted. A discount only exists when other people are selling it for a higher price point. That's when like a discount essentially exists. And so, for example, like if someone's selling a course for $100 and you're like, hey, I'm selling my course, which is similar, for $27, like that is like the value then is $100 and you're actually selling it at a discounted rate. But if this is where it becomes a challenge, right? Because no one else is doing kind of the courses that you're doing. You could maybe argue, oh, someone else who's selling like a template, a ClickFunnels template that's similar, but in a different kind of space. If they price theirs at, $100, and then you're saying, well, ours is valued at $1,000, but we're going to give it to you for 20. Like if you could maybe draw some comparisons there. And I didn't dive super deep into seeing who else is out there also creating funnels and selling them. So I guess I can't really say that, oh, I don't believe like your guys' price and it's not really a discount. But it's something that I wanted to kind of just bring up. And I don't know if you want to maybe address your thoughts around it.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. In fact, it's one that even comes up in our community, right? Because we're sort of teaching like one of the marketing things you want to do is show like, here's what business is, right?
Sure.
I've got this thing, you've got this amount of money. And if you believe that this is worth this money, then we trade. That's like what business is, right? Right. Sounds super basic, but it's kind of interesting to think about it that way. So then it's like the value thing, right? And this is, you're right, we could get into the weeds here because there's many different definitions of what that value could mean, right? So there's one specific one, and I did actually at least read part of one of those articles, which it was talking about a specific thing where it's talking about a discount, right? And it's basically saying like, if you say this normally costs this much, but right now you get it for this much, but you never sell it, at that other price, then you're lying, right? You're saying I normally sell it for this price, but you're getting it for this price. So that's you're just lying, right? So that's not really cool. So I don't do that. Now here's
you address that.
Yeah, and here's where it gets a little nuanced too. Like value can mean a lot of different things. And again, in the video, and I know I'm going to send you a recording, by the way, of the most recent one I did. I know you've already watched a ton of content, so don't feel obligated to watch it. But I want to show you because it's the updated version, and I'm going to re-record the version that everybody's going to see now when they opt in at some point. No promises on exactly when, because it's
that's fine.
A lot of work. But anyways, shit, I lost my point. Value. Okay, so when I'm talking about the value, I give a very specific, explicit definition of what I mean by value in that video. And again, the sales process, that video is is the sales process. So if you skip that and you just go to the order form, you're missing it. So in that video, what I say is, here's what this could be worth to you, right? Let me show you all the different ways that this could be worth to you. Let's say one of the things is that template, which, by the way, I hate saying the template because there's so much in this program that's like the actual coaching and this in-depth course and all this kind of stuff, where like the template a lot of times is like the thing people are most excited about, but it's like honestly not even the most valuable thing.
Theoretically makes their life so much easier because it's just, and I watched where you kind of walked through. So I've seen people use your template and maybe not fully make it, the best, their own unique version, but like I've seen videos where you've kind of given people critiques with you and Wishmaster and was it Anadomina? I was like a couple of you guys Probably. Like working with like a brand new guy and then working with Wishmaster. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going off from like tangents on tangents. Let me get to it. So basically, the value, I'm very explicit and very specific in the video of saying, here's what this could be worth to you. So like this exact template, this exact funnel, I've used, in fact, here's the most recent one that I did, that we did a couple weeks ago, is I say, hey, check it out. Here's literally the last time we used this exact template. And here's the revenue we did, which I just told you the number, I have it written down here, but it's something like $229,000 something dollars, right? Or a little over $200,000 basically.
Yeah.
And so I say to you, so when I show the value of that one, which actually, now that I think about it, I've actually increased, because on the one you showed, it said 997, but I say, check it out. Like, to me, this template is worth 229,000. In fact, it's worth a lot more than that, because this is just the most recent funnel. You could add up everybody else who's used it, and we could get to a number of millions of dollars, right? But sure. So that's what it theoretically could be, best case scenario could be worth to you. So let's just take 1% of our most recent funnel of the revenue, and let's just put a value in there of, $2,229, right? And so it's, I think, hopefully, and I explain a little bit longer, that is pretty clear of what I'm saying. I'm not saying we've sold this for $229,000
sure.
or two, anyways, whatever the number is, right? I'm not saying it's a discount. I'm saying here's what the value could be worth to you. In fact, this is a much smaller amount than what it really could be worth to you. And that's what I do for every single one of those things that are listed there. Okay, this course, which again, check out that video, because you mentioned like, oh, I don't know if this is just like a quick video. Like, bro, this is an in-depth course, and a big part of our philosophy is not just, again, teaching the tactics of like, well, you should have a page that says 5 free beats and then this page. And like, yes, we do give you that and make that as easy as possible. But more importantly to me is I want to teach the principles behind that, the strategies behind the tactics, the psychology, so that people understand why that works. That's a lot of what that training is. And so the value, again, same thing. And then I talk about, so the value, all of this information, one way that you can talk about the value is, well, I've attended all of these conferences and coaching programs and blah, blah, blah. And, I've spent stupid amounts of money learning this stuff.
Sure.
So, right. So I'm very specific about what that value in that context means. And that's the value you're seeing there.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And I get that. And that's why, like, when I was going through like the ECFRs and kind of the American marketing, just to kind of like think about the concept of what is ethical marketing, and is this kind of in the gray space, or would this be ethically marketed, or would this not be ethically marketed? Looking at kind of those pieces, I had to say, because I'd be like, this feels like this, but let me play the devil's advocate and say, but is it, especially because, I mean, these things are like legal documents. I'm not a lawyer. I've taken some law classes. I'm not a lawyer. So I can't look at, you never say this was sold at, at this price, and then you never sold it at $2,000, and you never did exactly what they're saying. I always just kind of was like, when I saw those particular bullets, it kind of was like, these are good, I think, points to consider when looking at kind of this. And it's hard, right? Because how do you price a value of something? I give away a lot of like Ableton Recs as part of just kind of what I do. I will do like I do a lot kind of on the back end where you collect an email. I collect like a YouTube subscribe if someone downloads my Ableton rack. But on my Shopify store, I list that Ableton rack at value to me at like $20, or my mix template, Ableton mix template, at like $50. But I always give those away for free. So you could apply the same thing there. I've never sold one of those. To me, that's what they're valued by. I say, listen, just download it for free. so I could see that sort of, like it becomes a hard question of like, well, what do you value these things at, and then how do you say it where it's like reasonable and makes sense and is not, absurd or things like that. So
Yeah, it's got to be justifiable and make sense, and you have to explain what does that value mean, right?
yeah,
And I think that's what comes out, right? If you're lying and you're saying, I sell these, hundreds of people buy these every day for $50, you can download it for free. Well, sounds like that would be a lie, so you probably shouldn't say that, right?
right.
If you say like, hey, finding something similar to this is what they normally charge, or hey, if you just think about the amount of time you'd save, you'll make this money back in a few months, or whatever, is as long as you define it and you're being honest. And to me, that's what's important.
Yeah. Listen,
You know, and
I mean, I definitely agree with you on that. Do you, I know we're getting really close to, in fact, it's like 1 minute till it hits 7. I don't know if there's anything else
I'm
that
okay
you
to
want
go a
to.
few minutes over.
Okay, yeah. Is there
If
anything
you are.
else that you want to address? Because I think that I've honestly hit all of the points that.
Oh, hold on, I just lost you. I don't know if it's on my end or yours. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
But I'm not. Oh, yes, now I can.
Okay, cool. Um, let's see here. Okay, cool. What I was saying was that that we've really hit kind of all the points that I kind of laid out. I mean, you could always go into depth on things like fairness and transparency, but I think that in general, I think that we've pretty much addressed a lot of these pieces.
Yeah,
I wanted to give you kind of.
I had one that you had made a note of that I did want to at least address quickly, which was sort of something, basically essentially where have I actually made my money? Am I making money selling courses, or am I making
Oh
money
yeah.
selling beats? Right. And this is something that I've heard, fairly often, like, oh, this guy doesn't sell beats, he sells courses, right? Like,
Yeah.
what a scam. And this is super frustrating. Well, okay, a few things. One is, I definitely don't think if somebody's never gotten a result themselves and never gotten a result for other people, they shouldn't be teaching other people how to do it, right? Because then your product sucks. You're not getting results for people, right? So that's one thing. So first of all, yeah, I've made a lot of money selling beats online. Like, if there's anything in this world I'm good at, that's something, that's what I'm good at. Like, I feel confident in that. Like, so that's one thing.
Cool.
The other thing, I guess, with that is that even if I was making, let's say, more money, already saying that I've done well and I've gotten results for other people, and now I've been able to leverage that into making even more money teaching people, I actually don't think there would be anything wrong with that. To me, I think,
I
great.
agree.
Now, not only am I just selling beats, I'm helping other people do that. Like, cool. I should get paid more to do that, right? So that's another point.
I don't disagree with that. I definitely
Okay.
agree with that stuff. Listen, obviously, like, I mean, unfortunately, there are teachers who never really have found any success and they move over into teaching. It just happens. Some people are just better at teaching than they are at doing something, and that's definitely a topic of discussion and debate and all sorts of different opinions about that. I personally don't care one way or another. If you can actually teach someone skills that they can then actually use to materialize results, then technically you're justifying your existence as a teacher.
Yeah, it's actually a great point, because it's easy to say, well, you shouldn't teach anything you haven't done yourself. But you're actually right, because sometimes the people who have done it themselves aren't, like, it's a different skill set to teach, so it's not always the same person who's the best at both. So
I've got the 4-year degree, so I know. I've had the professors who are fantastic, who've never actually done the job but can actually teach the content, and I've had the teachers who are amazing at the job but cannot teach to save their life. So I get it.
Yeah. And yeah. So, and I think in this case, well, I know in this case, like, I am one of the better people in the world at this thing, at selling beats online, right? It's a weird little, it's a very specific thing, but if there's anything that I'm good at, that's it. And yeah, and I think it would be great if I could make more money selling courses. That being said, there's basically no way you can slice it, because I saw the way when you sent me your notes, you're saying, like, in its entirety versus, a certain time frame.
Oh, yeah.
Or You know what I mean? Of like, so that I'm not like being sneaky about this time or this or whatever. And really it's manipulating like basically any way you slice it, whether if it's total revenue, total profit, this year compared to this year, like almost anything, Legion has generated certainly more profit, not even close, and more revenue almost any way you slice it. So that's the reality. So yeah, so it sucks to hear that criticism. And here's the part that really sucks, and this is something that I haven't talked about a lot, is Midi Money is something that Midi Money is the business where we teach all this stuff, as opposed to Legion Beats, which was where we sell beats and stuff. It has not been very profitable at all. Like really bad. In fact, we launched it sort of 2019, the summer, really kind of went all in the last couple months of 2019. It was pretty profitable then. It did pretty well. Then sort of early 2020, we started really scaling up. We took on sort of another partner who was not in the music space, but had worked with other people who were selling courses and stuff, who saw a bunch of potential there and was like, okay, let's scale this thing up. Let's reach more people. Let's do this. And there was a bunch of, that was a big learning process for me. Ultimately I have to take responsibility for everything that happened to the business, but some of the messaging, that kind of got changed where it was like, now I look at like, I should have just trusted how I would have said that. Right. And another thing was like scaling the ads way up. So back in I would say May, June, July, 2020, we were going crazy with the ads. I mean, we had, multiple 6-figure ad spend months, like insane.
I think Kyle Beats still has you beat.
Yeah. Well, certainly at this point we scaled our ads but you turned them off for a while, and now we're starting to run some. But yeah, we were going crazy for a little bit there. And that, yeah, I could talk about this for a while. But I guess the significant part in this context is that in our biggest revenue month that we had in 2020, certainly related to Midi Money, it was my least profitable. We had a month where literally, we did over $250,000 in revenue in 1 month, right? Which is crazy. That's like, I mean, it's all relative, whatever. Some people that's a lot, some people just a little.
No, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. That month, most revenue was my least profitable month ever in business. I made negative $25,000. So I was dealing with, and this was, since we're scaling well up, this is when most of that negative criticism, the Reddit threads, the, trying to scale up the customer service. Like I was working so hard. I was so stressed out. And I literally at the end of that month had $25,000 less than I did before. So it's like,
that's gonna suck.
I'm putting all this time, energy, effort, it's emotionally draining. It's all this stuff. And I'm literally like losing money. Like, why am I doing this? And I really did have a while there where it's like, why am I doing this? Like, I should like going back to just focusing on selling beats, which is more of what the focus has been, end of 2020 and now beginning of 2021. I'm still doing Midi Money, of course, but just, shifting the percentages a little bit. So much easier. Like I've never had to do a 2-hour video justifying myself for lead. Like we just put out a beat pack and people love it and we make money and it's great. You know what I mean? This is like not only all this time, energy and effort and kind of like I take a beating because it's this personal brand and people feel a certain way, but like it literally has barely been profitable. So it's like, it's one of the most frustrating things to hear of like, oh, this guy, like it makes me want to just stop doing it and just be all right, fuck it. I'll just sell beats. Like,
and I'll be honest, I didn't ever feel like, I know that people would, I think when I was talking to my partner about it and she was kind of helping me with some of this research and whatnot, that was kind of like a point that she was encouraging me to ask. And I've seen people, bring it up on online and stuff like that and questions and, within the producer community. I never really thought that you were probably making more, because I always thought it was like, he's selling a $500 course plus a $50 upsell. And I don't know what else is behind. Like that was actually a question was, is there any, is there a second, like, is there an upsell after, like, is it a tripwire into like another sale, like another piece with the course, which I can't see because I didn't put my credit card in there to try to buy the course.
There's one more product. There's like a what do you call it? Like a bundle of packs, loops, VSTs, stuff like that. Gotcha. There's one more little product in there.
Cool. But I never actually saw your stuff and thought, oh yeah, he's definitely making a bunch more doing this. I mean, it's like maybe, but I could definitely, when I was, just the idea of like, it's so much easier to sell beats in general than selling a course, because one of them you're working with the producer community, one of them you're working with the rapper community, and selling a course, especially at that high ticket price point or higher ticket price point, considering the producers who are, you know, there's a lot of producers who just probably can't afford that. um, you're just going to have less people than someone buying a $29 beat pack, or and especially like a course, which is kind of like a one-time sale, versus I know that you guys have done some like subscription packages, is definitely an easier thing to pull someone in and keep them going, because if they really like the product, they're gonna, the wallet is basically open to every month, and so you've got that a continuous stream. It's maybe a little bit more work for you because you always have to have content to release and you don't want to lose folks, but subscription models are way more profitable than a one-time even high ticket item. So I never kind of thought that, I put it on the list to talk about, but I never really thought that you made more money selling the course. I was like, maybe they're on the same level. And I tried watching your videos and like looking at kind of your stripe numbers and stuff like that. And when I watched it, like you did, I thought you actually did a decent breakdown. A little confusing sometimes because I'm not used to like reading stripe and click funnels and all that stuff. And but when I would look at that, I never thought, oh, he's making way more money selling once he started selling the course. Unlike I know some people out there who think that.
Sure.
So, do you have any other questions, comments, concerns, anything else you want to mention or talk about?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, like you said, we go deep on a lot of these things, but I think we addressed a lot. So
no, I think we did. I really appreciate this conversation. I think it's really opened my eyes to kind of just see kind of everything that, the steps that you guys have taken, and just kind of your experiences and stuff like that, and your critiques and the thoughts surrounding ethical marketing and stuff like that. I think you're a cool guy, and I appreciate this conversation, and I wish you the best success with your endeavors.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. And I'll say the same. I feel like as I've come across people who have criticized and stuff in the past, and I feel like you really are open to, hey, let me actually approach this in a way that I'm open to finding out if there is something else going on here, and I'm not, you're not all the way on this like conspiracy theory. It's all crazy. It's just like, all right, I've got some questions here, and so I appreciate that, and being open to actually have a call with me, which most of these guys won't do for, I don't know, whatever reason. It seems, I actually don't really understand why. But yeah, anyways, I appreciate it. And hopefully this will clear some things up for some people, and they'll either, I don't know, decide one way or another more, but I think we answered a lot of questions. So
yeah, my goal was, the whole thing was just, hey, I just want to open up this transparency and just really kind of hear the whole picture, and, stuff like that. I'm going to definitely check out your video to see kind of the stuff that you talk about, about like kind of the in-depth, the 30-minute video that you've made and whatnot. And I'm glad that my video was able to provide some pieces of like, oh, I should change this or stuff like that. Makes me feel good. Yeah. And if, again, if there's anyone else out there who wants to talk about their experiences with me, more than happy to jump on, a phone call to just kind of chat about experiences, whether it's positive, negative, neutral, whatever. I'm always open for that stuff. So
yeah, you should talk to the dude who left a comment.
Yeah, I chatted with him a little bit. At that point in time, I had some stuff going on, but now that we've had this conversation, I might reach out to him and just kind of hear his takeaways and stuff like that.
Cool. Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck.
All right, man. You too.
All right. Take care. Hey,
okay.
bye.